Okay, there we go. Wow,
Got it
recording
here.
in progress. There we go. We're a
Yep,
little bit
got the
late
dialogue
going out
here.
to social media. And yeah, there we go. We're back to normal. My bad. I don't know what I did. I don't understand it. I don't understand why it happens the way it does, but God bless technology. That's all there is to it. That's all I could say. God bless technology.
So
Welcome, everybody.
you guys were talking about switches. Have you explored the truth in audio switches?
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, were you? Yeah. So what do you think of those?
Well, that's what we're talking about. And
well, before we do that, Ken, let me just say hi to everybody. Let me introduce ourselves. Here we are. We're having a good time here on Thinking Out Loud with Friends, our 197th meeting. And we're going to talk about a lot of things. Just remember, everything you hear today is an opinion. So do your own research. And now, Ken, you can talk about whatever you want. Go ahead. Talk about them switches. Damn them switches.
I did, Ken, meet with Bernie down there, and he showed me a prototype. It's all very well built and everything. I'm just a little concerned about what might happen in the heat.
Well, that's what they're gearing it for, total, use in the elements, right?
Right, but 100-degree ambient in a black steel box sitting in direct sunlight for 14 hours in a row, it's going to be way more than 100 degrees inside of that black steel box. And I'm not saying that there's, that he's wrong about it. I just need to kind of verify it independently, I think, before I.
Well, you should get what's his name, Bernie. You should get a sample from Bernie and then try it out.
Hey, didn't Paul Newman make it in a black box like that for many years in Cool Hand Luke? Didn't he get through? I mean, he got through. Or how about Steve McQueen? He got it through in that black box.
As long as I have analog backup, I'll be fine. I just have to figure out what I'm going to do.
Plus, yeah, like I said, I would probably just run analog and then, do data monitoring, lift data off all the boxes and just see how that performed maybe on day one, and then maybe try running Rio on day two or something. But yeah.
Well, I would need, it's AVB Milan, and I would need a 12-port switch hanging on the bumper bar of each side just to get the data. And, if I'm only using it for data, I could just get something at Best Buy, and if it breaks, throw it in the garbage.
Oh, absolutely. No, the whole point is just flying that thing up there, on the top in the heat, in the vibration, and watching, if it still switch packets.
I don't want to find out in the middle of a National Acts tour.
Oh, no. I mean, I would never suggest running audio over Rio in that situation. It would just be up there and functional, but not actually in use for sending your audio signal.
These switches also do Milan, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean,
they're not
Meyer specific. IP.
They're not Meyer specific. I know they were engineered to, work for Meyer, and they have mounting hardware that will work with the Meyer fly grid, the little cap that stays on there. But they're designed to do multiple different formats, so you could use them on the floor in a breakout room to, manage little speakers on stands or something if you needed to do something.
Is there any vents in the box?
I don't remember seeing any, because I think he's trying to keep it water resistant, which that is also important. But I'm a little less worried about that than I am about heat. And, again, I don't want to slam him or anything. I don't mean it like that at all, especially since this is going out. It looks like a great product. I just need to kind of get over that one hesitation.
You need to order a little teeny tiny mouse air conditioner.
A little hamster wheel in there with a fan attached.
You can get one of these.
Yeah, you gonna sit up there all day and hold that on it?
Velcro, baby, Velcro. I recommend.
Oh, Scotch tape, very good. Yeah.
Hey, duct tape. I got him in every color.
Curt, do you know what's in his switch box? Does he have a name brand switch or two in there?
Yeah, I'll tell you later.
Okay.
If we weren't streaming, I would talk
because
about
my one company that I work with took a bunch of Netgear switches, the GS108s, and put them in really nice boxes with fiber interface and stuff like that.
for running audio or for data monitoring.
Both.
Well,
And how
if
did
you
it
stick
work?
around, after we finish streaming, Kurt will tell you everything. So that is definitely, if you're interested, join the panel. All right, and you'll hear everything. You'll hear everything.
So Ken, is that something you could send me, like an example of that, or?
Oh, I don't have any pictures of that, but it's really cool though. It works so rock
Can you
solid.
connect me with whoever did it?
Yeah, sure. I'll send you their contact info.
Okay, great.
He made it really slick. I mean, it's pretty slick. I think it's based on GS108s. And do GS108s have a fiber interface somehow? I forget.
No,
Maybe one of the GS108 versions has fiber, but he has fiber on these boxes, and they're rock solid. They're 1U and just really solid, and it's all based on Netgear.
Yeah, well, even if I'm just data monitoring, I still have to. I'm not going to run 12 Cat6 lines up to it. I want to run one up to it and have a switch that's up there. But it could it could literally be on a carabiner and just hang off the back of the bumper bar. It as long as it's kind of weather resistant.
Right.
An
Put it in a
interesting
plastic
dilemma.
bag.
Garbage bag. Yep.
When I do a timer for my Christmas tree lights, not Christmas tree lights, for my lights on the outside of the house. I mean, at Christmas time, I put it in a plastic bag. That way, if it rains, it just doesn't get on the timer.
I do the same thing, and I
IP67 certified.
I'm sure.
Well, these are Ziploc bags now. We're not just using saran wrap here.
Just remember, everything you hear today is an opinion.
It's an opinion.
You got to make sure though that if you're daisy chaining them and you've got it's plugged in, but you still have the female part of the receptacle.
Hey, Kurt, this is a family show. This is a family show.
That's always got to aim down so that water can't go in, even if it's condensation inside the bag.
Yeah, the only problem is on Netgear is there are a couple of problems that I like Netgear switches personally. I deploy them extensively for clients. The one issue that they have is that the smaller switches, they have a separate power brick, and that's on the other side of the switch. So either it's going to be the Ethernet ports facing up, or it's going to be the power receptacle facing up. But I think you could probably put some putty around the power connector. But then, in a mission critical application, the next thought is, well, how solid is the power supply? And I've seen a lot of issues over the years with different networking equipment getting very spastic packets, packing coming in, and then they go out and they're corrupted packets because there's the power brick is not given exactly the voltage that it's supposed to have.
Well, and I would have to find a way to do it because I have 6 circuits of 208 up there because the Panthers won't fire up on 110. So I don't have any 110 up there. I'd have to either
they're all those switches are auto sensing 110, 220, 50, 60.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I just have to build a little breakout box, but still, we'll figure it out. I'm mostly interested in the data. The digital audio part doesn't exactly do anything for me, really.
Wow.
Big
Who would
surprise.
have thought we could spend 10 minutes speaking about switches? Unbelievable.
Oh,
Man,
yeah,
I'm going to go to a
that.
Dante seminar tomorrow, and it's going to be, well, not tomorrow, next week, I should say. And I'm sure they're going to spend more than 10 minutes talking about switches.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
So apparently it's
you have something to look
all
forward
is
to.
802, 802.3.AF, which is a lot of the protocols that they're quoting is for use in AVB is actually the same kinds of protocols that we need to run IP telephoning. So, for instance, you can get and Ethernet also has 48 volt, phantom power, right? So the Cisco IP phones like this one, This is a small Cisco IP phone. This is like their small business line, but the Ethernet and port in the back is power over Ethernet. So if I plug that into a PoE switch that supports 802.3.AF, then this phone just turns on when I plug the Ethernet into it. And the same for I've got 7970s. Those are like the real, pro models of Cisco phones. And it seems like there's a lot of parallels between the protocols that we're using for IP telephony and that we're using for what they are air quoting as, ABB applications.
So I can hook up my red phone from front of house Clearcom and it'll go to my PA?
Yeah, well, that's, okay, so there's a really cool IP telephony freeware distribution called Asterisk. And Asterisk is really like the number one, the only thing that would even compete with Asterisk would be Cisco's IP telephony. And when you buy the Cisco IP telephony box, you better get your wallet out. And it runs a proprietary Cisco protocol called Skinny. And this phone is SIP. And so when you get into the world of SIP, then you can get a whole bunch of different vendors that are making phones like this, and they're all, standards based, so they all interconnect. But there's a really good project in the freeware domain called Free PBX, which takes Asterisk and a really nice web interface and puts them together, and it's on a CD or DVD rather. You can just download the DVD, get a commodity hardware box, install Free PBX on it, and you can have your own IP telephony for a concert, which could be anything from actual phones like I just showed you to push-to-talk applications on your iPhone to all sorts of good stuff. That happens. That was something that I worked with extensively, and then I was actually virtualizing PBXs, which they say, they were saying, oh no, you can't run a virtual PBX in VMware. Well, I did it and had fantastic success for years. I never had a problem.
Have you ever thought of writing a book about that? Because I'm sure there would be plenty of people that would want to read.
Oh, I'm sure they'd be just pounding my doors down to hear my thoughts about IP telephony.
It's a page turner. It's a page turner. I tell you, it's a page turner.
Jan is paralyzed with inspiration over what you've just spoken about.
Yeah,
I want to hear the audiobook, man.
I'll get Kevin Costner to do
for your next drive to Vegas. You can listen to it on your next
Exactly.
I mean, that's what you're making me feel bad. I swear, you're making me feel bad that I switched to Polycom from Cisco.
Polycom makes great phones. As a matter of fact, their conference phone, which is kind of that famous low thing that looks like a little bit like a spider, that is just considered, the industry standard for a conference room SIP phone. Those things are fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the only phone.
Oh, okay. Well,
I got a message that said TF is now the host, and Jan just drifted off into the ether.
It worked so solidly. Cuts right out.
Jan had to reboot again, everyone.
So does that mean you could pick up the phone and talk through the whole PA direct off the stage? Like if you had a phone on stage, picked it up, and you'd bypass everything else and go straight to the PA?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, if you had an IP phone and a network up to the switch that's behind the PA,
right,
and you decided you wanted to have a effect song, effect tone, like you say, here we are calling in, like Pink Floyd or something like that, and all of a sudden it would bypass the console and everything and go straight to the PA, and you'd take over the show.
Oh, no. But obviously, okay, so things that could happen on a Cisco switch that couldn't happen on a low-end Netgear is Mac. Well, you have port security on all of the advanced Cisco switches. Even the small business switches have port security, which basically means all of the MAC addresses are typed into the configuration ahead of time, and only those MAC addresses can send and receive packets over the switch. Any foreign MAC address that were to attempt to connect it just blocks the port, and there are no packets that'll pass. Now that can be extremely convenient, but also could create problems if on the fly you need to plug in a new device, and then that means you got to go into the configuration and add the MAC address to the table of authorized MAC addresses. But given the fact that these boxes are not going to be sort of physically proximate, up in the air on the flying high, I don't think you're going to see too many people crawling up there with an Ethernet cable. But yeah, I mean, Ethernet security is obviously very real in a situation like that.
Could you make a comm system out of it so you don't have to run analog lines to front of house anymore?
Well, I mean, you can certainly run IP telephony, and these things. This particular phone supports intercom, all of that stuff. You could essentially kind of do pretty much anything that you wanted to if you've got a SIP server somewhere on that network. While you're doing a show, yeah, you could have guys with you can actually put a SIP client onto your iPhone, right? So you get something called Zoiper or a number of other applications that install onto your iPhone, and they register over Wi-Fi to the SIP server. Now all of a sudden you are a 3-digit extension on a phone system. So front of house could be extension 100. Guys in the back could be 101. Somebody doing lighting could be 102. 103 is video. I mean, whatever you want. You can put thousands of extensions onto a SIP server, and each conversation is pretty light. My observations of doing packet monitoring on a SIP network is that kind of a very high quality SIP conversation uses about 96K of bandwidth, so it's like really minimal.
But lighting would have to be 512, I think.
You can, it's all user defined, man. You
pretty
can,
good for a sound guy, Ken.
I mean, if you want front of house to be 666, I can do that for you, no problem.
Only on a metal tour.
Well, the other question on that with the phones and that is whether you have noise canceling stuff there, but the question is, can you have the vocal printout? So a lot of times, if it's loud or whatever, you can't tell anything if people talking to you. Why can't you have it to where it prints out? You have a screen that you can print out what the person's saying, or even doing texting or whatever there that makes it easier to understand it and make sure you don't miss the message.
Oh yeah, that's not an application that I've ever done, but that would be completely possible. Sort of a SIP to text where somebody says something and it just shows up as writing on a
subtitles for ClearComm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that I've never personally done it, but I could easily see that wouldn't be a big problem.
But that could come up the monitor console. Pick up the phone, he could tell something there, and Ken Newman could look at that screen in the middle of his SD7 that says, "Hey, did you want it to sound like that?"
Oh yeah,
well, they have that now. They have that now.
Yeah, with my
closed captioning.
My conversations with the monitor guy, it would just turn everything into duck over and over again.
Yeah, but the ability for SIP capable devices, many of them just like this phone. So for instance, the way I actually run this at home, I just have the power brick plug in here, and this thing actually turns on and associates and comes up live and gives me all my phone extensions over Wi-Fi. So you don't even need cables. So if you've got stage hands running around in the back, in theory, each of them could be wearing, or each of them could have an iPhone with an earpiece, and you could use push to talk. I mean, there's just thousands of possibilities of using SIP as a very nice, and you can conference, right? That's another ability of SIP software. There's no problem if you want, I don't know, if you have 3 technicians on the stage, they could all be listening and be able to talk together with somebody at front of house. That's absurdly simple.
Until it gets hot and it all fails.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's why I think that's why most people, and as far as I know, everybody uses a direct cable, right to from the front of house to the monitor. They don't go any other way, but the hard wire.
Yeah, I mean,
good old
you
copper
can do that.
rarely fails you,
Yeah, and there's even things like if I just pick up this phone, I can make it ring front of house. It's kind of like a bat phone. As soon as you lift it off the hook, Kurt's phone rings.
And, so what's the name of the intercom system that people use for shows, and they used them a lot during the lockdown? Was it Unity or something?
Yes.
It's internet-based Unity. Okay, so I couldn't think of that name, but that was it is a very widely used intercom system for when people want to talk between different cities. Not right in the same building, not so much, but when from one building to another building and stuff. In the old days, you would go on a phone line and have a Gentner interface and all these, interfaces to make it get into your intercom system. These days, you just get a Unity connection into your intercom system, and now you're talking to the other city like they're right next to you.
Yeah, I'm
pretty sure that both Rydell and Clearcom have that, or that those features in their later model.
I can't say definitively, but I'm pretty sure that Unity is a SIP deal. But just to give you a use case, I had a virtual PBX, which basically means that I've got one big pizza box server that's so powerful that it can run all sorts of different stuff simultaneously. So I can be spinning up 16 different servers. In my example, I had about 20 that all work simultaneously inside of one physical box. So I have a logical server that did telecom, but I had that server sitting in Zurich at a data center, and I had clients connecting over a VPN with one of these phones all over the world. There were guys sitting in Monte Carlo, there were guys sitting in Barcelona, there were guys sitting in South America, there was somebody over in the Philippines, and they were all just 3-digit extensions. You just pick up the phone and dial 101, and Jan's phone rings in Thailand, no problem.
That's right, but my extension is 106, so don't call them 101. All right, don't do that. But by the way, so what you're explaining right now is what we're using right now at Soundbroker, but we're going through the interface of Zoom. We went with Zoom Telephone. I used to be with what was it called?
WebEx.
Nextiva. No. Nextiva. I was with Nextiva for years and years and years and years, and then we switched over to Zoom.
Cisco does this whole thing, and that's called WebEx, and
WebEx.
There are, I don't know how many different product offerings from how many different companies that essentially compete in this space.
Well, you'll see that the two main competitors right now for broadcast is Zoom and WebEx, because when you watch like in a news program, you'll see in the right-hand corner.
They have the little embossed. They embossed the video feed with Cisco WebEx just as just so you remember that it's coming over Cisco. Oh, absolutely. And then Cisco's WebEx platform is, absurdly more powerful than Zoom in terms of capabilities of having separate cameras and being able to do all sorts of very complex audio and video.
Well, Cisco is the mainstay of the business world, whereas Zoom just, if it wasn't for COVID, nobody would know what Zoom was. We'd still be using Skype.
Right. And even Google now apparently has a product offering that does this.
So really speaking of Cisco, can I ask you audio guys a question? Maybe Ken knows this. I encountered a situation with Cisco switches with Yamaha consoles a while back, and it took them much longer than I was accustomed to settle down and get online with the consoles and the Rio boxes, compared to like a Netgear switch. Switch took less than a minute, and it was all connected and everything was good. But then the Cisco took like 5 or 10 minutes. Have you heard of that, Ken?
I haven't heard much about it. I knew that you have the certain switches and stuff like that. That's why I try to do as much as I can. I do it with Twin Lane because it's a whole lot easier. It finds itself and sets everything up.
In theory, if you boot a Cisco Catalyst switch, it has to load iOS and jump through a lot of hoops, and then it goes into the spanning tree protocol testing to make sure there are no duplicate MAC addresses on 2 different ports. And it kind of takes a minute for one of these really powerful switches to get up and running. But once up and running, that's all configurable. If you're experiencing long delays when you introduce a new device, then you'd have to look at the config file and find out why. But once that thing's booted, it is it's first class.
It's amazing what they could do with ones and zeros these days. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I'm just bought 4 tons of digital gravel. It's being delivered tomorrow in the back of a VW. Thanks to Curt for that.
Digital gravel, yeah.
Gonna finish out my garden with the digital gravel. I'm really excited.
There you go. So Ken, when you're deploying the network stuff, are you flying the racks or are they on the ground and the data stays there?
It's usually on the ground. Yeah, I don't think he flies those switches that he made, but he puts them everywhere. They're very heavy duty.
I just texted the guy.
Cool. Hope you mentioned my
nice.
name because you don't want to surprise him. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, he's texting me back.
He's a super busy guy, but if he has time to talk to you, that'll be cool. He's super into building things,
If he can send me some pics, and if I'm in the LA area, I can come and take a look.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Have we expired that conversation on switches? Is there anything else?
No, there's more
about?
to talk about switches. Come on.
I got some things I want to talk about.
I got a potato. I got to go check on a potato. I'll be back.
Jan, what's the subject?
He wasn't kidding either.
Oh, he was. Must be a very important spud.
Kind of reminds me of an old joke, which we will share offline. Remind me about a potato. Remember the potato joke? Okay, hey, So anyway, did you guys hear that they found Paul McCartney's bass, the Hopner bass that he used to record all those, classic Beatle tunes? Somebody had it.
The first one that he had. It's not the one that's on all like the movie you just saw. He had several. That's the very first one though, from like before they made it.
By the way, did you see the movie yesterday?
Sure.
Yep.
Wasn't that cool? Wasn't that a great concept? How he was the only one that knew about the Beatles songs.
Well, except that one other guy.
Ed Sheeran. Well, Ed Sheeran didn't know about it. One other person knew about it. But other than that I love that idea.
Yeah, you could be really popular, Jan.
Yeah. I think I can get away with it here in Thailand for sure. That's it. But
so if you
here
have a tribute band in Thailand, what would you call it?
The Thai band, I guess. That's reaching, but I guess they have some really good musicians here, amazing musicians, and they're very down to earth and really, normal kind of people. And they're really, there are a lot of cover. I went to see an ABBA cover band, and it really depressed me over the fact that I was going to see a cover band having worked with the real thing for so, I never worked with ABBA, but I happen to have worked with a few million bands that, had a lot of credibility and are famous. And yet it was really weird to go see a cover band. It was hard for my ego to grasp that I've gone to the point of going to see cover bands,
Well, I got to
Anybody-
the point where I'm working with them.
Yeah.
And how was it? So were you entertained as much as the original?
After the first two drinks, yes. But they weren't that good. They weren't that good. It was like dinner theater kind of stuff. And it didn't draw a big crowd.
Did I tell you my cover band story about Billy Joel? And Billy Joel is popular these days because he finally has a new song.
No, tell us. How's the potato doing, though, by the way?
Potato's good. It's ready. It's ready to be eaten.
Okay.
So is the spaghetti squash. But anyway, so this is what I heard. This is a rumor. This is not an opinion. It's a rumor that there was, Billy Joel's from Long Island, and there was a Long Island cover band that did a Billy Joel tribute. So he went to see the cover band, and he went, "Oh, you guys are pretty good." And he actually hired the lead singer, who imitates Billy, of course, to be in his band so that Billy no longer has to go to sound check. And this guy does sound checks for him. And then during the show, he plays acoustic guitar or something.
Oh, wow. That's a good story.
It's kind of a success story for a tribute band, right? Imagine if some Journey tribute band, Steve Perry went in and saw them and said, "Oh, I'm going to hire you." It's
well, that's basically what happened. Except it wasn't Steve Perry that did the hiring,
right?
Yeah, it was something from a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, the guys from
happened with the
YouTube.
That happened with the drummer for the Chainsmokers. The drummer for the Chainsmokers that went out on tour with them was discovered by the Chainsmokers because this guy he's from Australia. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. This guy's an amazing drummer. And he was just posting YouTube videos of him covering all of the Chainsmokers tunes. They hired him and took him on tour.
Well, it's one way to get around it. I mean, if you're playing them all the time and you're good, the actual learning curve becomes much less. And it also gives, cover band, musicians an opportunity to dream that one day it'll happen to me.
It could happen. Yeah, that could happen. But speaking of Indonesia, have you guys heard of the Con Queen?
No.
So there was a scammer known as the Con Queen. You can look it up on Wikipedia if you want. And it came to a head in 2020 when the Con Queen was they finally figured out who it was and where they were and so forth, and the Con Queen got arrested. But I listened to this very entertaining podcast. It was 11 episodes of a podcast about the Con Queen and what they were doing and how they were doing it. Very interesting. I hadn't listened to but maybe one other podcast that many episodes of a podcast before. It was pretty cool.
What was the scam, curiously?
Okay, the scam was very very bizarre because you would think that they're looking for a lot of money. They're like, okay, we need to bank a lot of money off each mark, right? But he would pose as a film industry executive, like a producer or a casting director or something like that, and say, I need you. You're a trainer. Well, like the first episode was about a guy that was a trainer and he wanted to get in the film business. So he got this call from supposedly a film industry executive, and they said, okay, well, here's the job. The job is go to Jakarta. And I'll, you pay for the flight. I'll reimburse you. Don't worry about it. Right. And I'll reimburse you. I'll provide the hotel room, and then I'll provide a driver, and they'll get you around and so forth. And then we'll work on what I need you to do once you're there in Jakarta. So once he was there in Jakarta, the driver said, "Oh, I need $1,000 for this permit, or I need $1,000 for something that the driver needed." And so he would get these thousands of dollars of cash from these marks just a little bit at a time, but they added it up. It was millions of dollars that it added up to because he did it to so many people. So he had one person they interviewed had been to Jakarta many times. He was really hoping it was real. He was really hoping it wasn't a scam. And he had spent nearly $100,000 between the flights and things that he had to pay for, plus the amount of money that he laid out to the driver. It was nuts. $100,000. Give me a break.
Well, anybody who did that deserves to lose that money. That's all I could say. If you are that stupid to fly to Indonesia,
you should listen to the podcast, and they're in search of their goal was to work in the film industry, and it was like, oh, look, an opportunity to work in the film industry. I gotta take this. I don't care how dicey it sounds. I'm gonna fly to Jakarta. I'm gonna pay the $8,000 for a business class seat, and I'm gonna fly to Jakarta, and I'm gonna do whatever they say. And it's crazy. And by the way, the first few episodes, you think that the scammer is a female because she is always a female on the phone with these people that she convinces to go to Jakarta, but she turned out to be a guy, but she was really good at disguising her voice and playing different characters, and she played many different characters on the phone with these people and email also. Just crazy stuff, and highly sophisticated according to some of the people that were talking about it in terms of security, because he knew how to send those emails in a way that they couldn't be traced to the actual origin.
Wow. Well, that's an impressive story. I guess,
It was.
you have this desire in you for certain things, and if someone could reach that desire, usually it's greed, where most of the people want to, that's how they usually get people. They prey on their greed. And of course, when you're greedy, you will do everything that you need to make more. And so that's usually how that works. In this case, he preyed on the fact that they wanted to be in the film business. It was just the need that he had found in these people that he was able to capitalize that and embezzle these people for all that money.
Yeah, and later you find out in this podcast series, you find out that his upbringing was his father was in the film industry. He was a writer or screenwriter or something like that. Very successful and very well off, and he had a lot of money and stuff. But this guy, the scammer, had been in prison for a while and had done some really bad things and stuff. It's just crazy story. I mean, just evil. Some of the things he did, really evil.
Yeah, remember, once you commit to something, a little bit here, a little bit there, you just keep going for it. You don't want to throw it away. So you keep going. That's the whole trick, is to ask for a little bit at a time.
Yep.
That's what I've been doing with my PA company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like fishing. You get that fish, you give them some rope. Yeah, you get the hook in them, and then once you hook
one
in,
more
you let
line
them run
array.
a little bit. Yep.
Well, there was a guy that
Yeah.
There was a guy that was running a scam. I don't know where he was running it out of, but he was posting apartments available in Monte Carlo. And he posted pictures of an apartment, well located, but not perfect. And the rent for this apartment was like $4,000 a month, which in Monte Carlo terms is very reasonable. And he would post this stuff, and these, that literally his phone would just start ringing off the hook. And he was the same kind of guy. He would just say, well, you know what? If you want this thing, I need you to, basically send me $1,000 as soon as possible, and I'll lock the apartment down. And then, so this guy would do one advertisement, and then he would sell, and for a lot of these people that are looking for an apartment in Monte Carlo, they're not going to tell anybody that they got duped out of
they're embarrassed. Yes. Exactly.
2,000 or even one guy was saying, look, man, I'll just send you the first month's rent, and the guy's like, okay, great, I'll send you the lease, whatever. And the guy just would rent that same apartment off one ad. He was probably making, 50 grand.
Yeah, it's crazy how gullible people can be sometimes.
I believe in the beginning there was a guy that was doing that on Airbnb. I think he was doing that, renting the apartment over and over and over again.
Wow.
But you want to hear? I don't know.
That's like some people. That's
this?
like some people who don't even own a house. They sell the house. You know, they figure out how to sell the house that they're renting. Some things like that. There's so many people doing, you know, underhanded things these days. It's amazing.
And they probably an amazing amount.
There's an amazing amount of theft going on these days, impersonation, deep fakes. I mean, it's hard to. It's, you know, if you have any larceny in you, then you're a target for these people. You have to be careful about that. You have to realize, you know, it's like the lottery. You never, you know, the odds of winning the lottery are so far against you, but yet you feel, wow, it's only $1, or it's only $5, whatever. And you know, if I win, you know. And they just get you that way. It's. I know the lottery is not illegal or immoral, but it is playing on your greed and the fact, you know, most people, I think something like 90% of the world figure the only way they're ever going to be successful is to win the lottery.
Yeah, the odds.
So many, and there are so many stories out there of lottery winners that failed. You know, they won, they got a lot of money, and then they go right down the tubes.
Oh yeah, crash and burn.
It's like 3 years. I mean, or something. Usually they're back to wherever they were.
Yeah, and a lot of people, a lot of them even I've heard commit suicide. I mean, but they definitely lose everything. They just can't handle it. They can't handle that kind of wealth. You know, they just can't handle it. And then once you win, everybody you've ever known, everybody who ever will know, is going to call you and ask you for money.
That's the same thing that's happened to a large number of professional sportsmen. So they're getting these, you know, multi-million-dollar contracts to play football or basketball, whatever sport they're in. And then, you know, everybody comes out of the woodwork and, you know, wants a cash gift or all this stuff. And after these guys make enormous sums of money, and then after they leave the game, within 3 or 4 years of leaving the game, they've got nothing left.
I bet that's true with a high percentage, like 90% of them, right?
It's unusually high. So what they're doing now is that all the managers, you know, for these players are basically saying, okay, like any of these decisions need to go through here, and we need to help, you know, educate you about managing your resources, because if you just go off and flame every weekend, you know, everything you've worked for is going to be gone in short order. So they've got some educational programs, but yeah, the percentage of pro athletes who retire with money and then after 3 or 4 years are essentially nearing rock bottom is just shocking.
I can't imagine how bad it would be for those college students now that are making this kind of money, that they're allowing them to make money.
Well, you know, one of the best examples is all the boxers that we've seen, that only a couple of them actually made money and saved it. And most of them, they just blow it with their entourages, and, you know, they make multi-million-dollar fights and then they have nothing. Look at George Foreman. He had to go out and buy the grill because he was so broke.
What a great idea he came up with. I love that.
Yeah, he saved his ass, but he needed to save his ass because he lost it all.
It amazes me that he didn't put an on-off switch on that. I just can't believe that the George Foreman grill doesn't have it. You have to unplug it and plug it in.
It's probably a UL thing.
Couldn't afford to switch.
You couldn't afford to switch. Back to the switches. That's it. You know,
only right. Production costs too much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, did you guys, speaking of money, did you hear that John Oliver offered Clarence Thomas $1 million a year and a Winnebago if he stepped
And that's not just any Winnebago. Did you see it? It's a $2 million motorhome. It's a serious motorhome.
My God.
It's not a Winnebago. It's a Prevost, I think.
It's $1 million a year for the rest of his life.
Yes,
for the rest of his life.
All he has to do is quit the Supreme Court. Yep.
That's pretty amazing that and he said that's legal, and he was putting his own money up for that.
Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. It was. You could if you Google John Oliver on YouTube. That's how I watched it. I don't have HBO Max. It's a great show, and then he ties it in where he will offer them $1 million, and then he goes shows the Winnebago, or not the Winnebago, but the Prevost. It's gorgeous. It is amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
better than
it's
most
one of the
people's
best
houses.
Prevosts I've ever seen. Yeah.
Those things are just gorgeosity on wheels. I mean,
Yeah.
And so he was like trying to entice them that, you know, you could have a lot of money and you could just travel around the country and have a good time. You don't need any of this Supreme Court shit anymore. Just retire, okay? Please.
Yeah. And I guess he has a month to do it. I don't know what became of that. But I would think that it would be a great opportunity for somebody. $1 million a year. I mean, I wonder if he's making more than that off the side, you know, right now through his wife, but who knows?
So I mean, John Oliver does some great things. John Oliver is amazing.
Yeah, he really put it together really well. He's won so many awards for his show. It's newsworthy and it's humorous. I mean, it's almost like the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Have you guys been watching that? I mean, it's like
I haven't seen this week's yet, but Jon Stewart is great.
He talked about
it's
his dog
amazing
this week.
what's happening. What did he talk about this week?
His dog died, and he was
Oh
crying.
my God, he started crying in the middle of that. It was heartbreaking.
He started crying in the beginning of that. He didn't even make it to the middle.
oh well.
Yeah. I mean, I know what it's like. You know, when I had to put my dog down, I couldn't control my crying, and I was at the veterinarian's office, and I was trying to say that is it normal is this a normal thing, or you know? And she says yes, it's normal. And I said, do you have a tissue? And the box was empty, and she opened the closet, and the closet from the floor to the ceiling, there must have been 100 tissue boxes in there. And obviously, I'm not the only one that cries when they have to put their dog down. Otherwise,
that's
that's
why
I'm working on tissues.
That's why I did it at my home instead of going to the vet. With the last 2 dogs, I said I'm doing it at home.
You know,
there was an old Hank Snow song called "Old Shep," and I don't know if you guys ever heard that, but it goes back to the late '50s, early '60s. But basically, it's a story about the kid sitting there and his dog was in pain in there, and he's sitting there with his 45 and basically took care of old Shep for him.
Oh, God. I don't know if I could have done that to my dog. I mean,
that sounds like Old Yeller. Yeah, I mean.
There's another one, another song by another group was called Goldie's Last Day. And basically, the band was in the studio, and the guy's dog died that morning. And they came in and basically wrote a song and did that. It was another very good dog songs.
That's what Shannon is Gone. Shannon, remember that hit from the 70s?
Oh, Henry Gross. That was one of the first songs I ever worked. That was I worked for Life Song Records. I can't believe you knew that.
It's about Carl Wilson's dog drowning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first job in Hollywood, and working for Life Song Records, promoting Harry Gross.
And he was in the touring band for the Beach Boys, but not a single Beach Boys actually on that recording. It sounds like a really great Beach Boys record, but they aren't on it.
Yeah, it was a semi-hit, never really made it. But then at that point in time, just a little bit of business side, Life Song Records was bought out by Columbia, and they kind of like killed almost everything. They just basically all they wanted was Jim Croce's catalog.
If you listen to that
track, gentlemen, thank you. I'll see you next week.
See you. If you listen to that track,
thanks for this.
There's almost
no. the scoop on the switches there, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a knowledgeable guy, Chris. You know, he's
yes,
not only it's hard to believe he's a drummer. Really, seriously. No, all kidding aside.
But that track,
well, you know, it's time for me to go make dinner for the pups here, so I gotta go. But nice talking to you guys.
That's good. I mean, we once again, I didn't cover half the stories I wanted to cover, but we'll come back next week and let's just get offline. Let's let people do what they're going to do. And we will talk again next week. Just remember, you make it happen. Everything you heard today is an opinion. Do your own research. And this was our 197th consecutive meeting. Today is what's today's date? February 28th. and next week we'll be back. So you make it happen. Thanks. Give us a like, give us a follow, and anything else you want to do. And until then, we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. And we'll stay in the room and we'll keep chatting. So we're stopping the live streaming right now. And we are off the air. If I could figure out how to turn off the recording, I will be great. But somehow it's disappeared. Stop recording. Boom, done.